Welcome to the Big Picture Retirement Show, where you'll learn what it really takes to have a successful retirement. With over 20 years of experience, your host, Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, has seen it all and is here to help you achieve your retirement dreams. This is the Big Picture Retirement Show.
Welcome into the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. I'm Mark Elliott. Rick is a partner at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, has over 20 years experience in the financial industry. Glad you're with us today for the program. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group is here to help you create your big picture blueprint, if you will, of your retirement. What are you going to do? How are you going to spend your time? Can I retire? Well, when can I retire? Will my money last as long as I do? That's what the team is here to help you figure out. You can always give them a call. There's no cost. It's 800-700-1980. And say, hey, I've got some concerns. Hey, the market's been bumpy. This is going on. What do I do? Should I move some money here or there? Can I retire? That's a great question. 800-700-1980. And you can always find out more on the website, safeguardinvestment.com. Safeguardinvestment.com. I'm Mark Elliott. Glad you're with us today. Rick, the big thing going on right now is the always political squabbles when the debt ceiling comes around. I think since 1960, 79 times we've had this issue. 49 times with Republicans, 29 times with Democrats. And during the Trump time, remember, they had to furlough some government workers for a little bit because the Democrats were playing hardball with the president. Now you got the Republicans doing the same to the Democratic president, Joe Biden. So it's kind of what they do. Here's what Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve chair, had to say about this debt ceiling stuff.
It's essential that the debt ceiling be raised in a timely way so that the U.S. government can pay all of its bills when they're due. A failure to do that would be unprecedented. We'd be in uncharted territory, and the consequences to the U.S. economy would be highly uncertain and could be quite adverse. So I'll just leave it there. We don't give advice to either side.
So at the end of the day, we've never defaulted. Now, we've lost some credit rankings, especially I think it was back in 2011.
Yeah.
But is this something that we should be overly concerned about? Because they're going to come together at some point, right?
Yeah. I'm honestly, I'm really not that concerned about it. I mean, they've always come together, and they're going to have to come together at this point, especially if they're going to want to stay in office. And there's so many other things that bigger things I think we need to worry about, from estate planning, retirement issues, not to get into the weeds on this type of stuff.
I'd like that answer. So the idea is worry about yourself. Don't let Washington or Wall Street distract you from your hopes and dreams of retirement. Yes. Let's make a plan that actually will put you in a better position. And that's what the team at Safeguard Investment can certainly do. Again, it's 800-700-1980 if you'd like to chat with them. One of the things we were talking about before the show, because we were talking about some articles that we'd maybe discuss today on the program, and we came across an article that said 68% of parents have made a financial sacrifice to help their adult children with money. And you're like, absolutely. Let's talk about that. I've certainly seen that, right?
Oh, I have seen that many times. I hate to say it, many times in my career. And, to be quite frank with you, Mark, I've run into situations where clients have literally thrown away their retirement helping the kids. It could be anything from maybe the kids are starting up a business. And they're like, Mom, Dad, we need $300,000, $500,000 to start up this business. And they're, pumping that out. And they say, listen, we'll pay you over this time. And they negotiate a deal. And, things go south, let's face it, and they don't get paid back. And now I've seen it where they had to do like a reverse mortgage because they lost the money because of what they gave to the kids. Or back in 2008, think about back in 2008 when people were losing their homes and the parents were there trying to rescue the kids from losing their homes, and they ended up losing it anyway. So I think sometimes, you have to be in a situation where you have to learn to say no. I understand helping the kids out, but not to the point where sometimes they have to learn their own lesson. And if it's going to be where you're going to have to like move out of your home or get a reverse mortgage, and I know the kids have the best intention, they definitely want to pay you back. But a lot of times these situations that they get themselves into, they have no ill intent, but you have no idea who they're dealing with, where now those people they're dealing with is causing them to lose the money that you just loaned them. I had a client one time, and I'll just make it real brief, that she was devastating her retirement, helping out her one son. And she told me, she's like, Rick, I just cannot say no. And she actually had to turn around and make me the bad guy. She basically just said, hey, listen, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to tell him that, you're my advisor. And if he needs money, that I need to talk to you. Or he would call me directly. And then I had to be the bad guy because she couldn't be the one to say no. So I basically had to put her in a situation that, and many of my clients put them in a situation where, hey, listen, any money you give the kids or decide to give the kids to help them out, make sure it's money that you can afford to lose. That's what you need to take into consideration. Make sure it's money you can afford to lose and plan on it never coming back. So if you're going to loan them 300 grand and you can afford to lose that 300 grand, and if they never paid you back, your retirement is fine, then do it. But if it's only 1,000 and they're asking for 10,000, say, hey, listen, here's what I can afford. I can give you 1,000, but that's the best I can do. So I'm pretty passionate about this because unfortunately, it's not like I've only seen it every once in a while. I've seen it a lot of times.
And you're a parent. I mean, you get it. I mean, you understand why your kids come to you for help. You're like, well, I should try to do everything I can. But it's kind of like the old saying, if grandma sees grandpa in not very good shape, she's going to do everything she can to make him more comfortable with no regard to herself. And the parents, now we have to, with some regard to our own retirement, right? Not sacrifice that.
Yeah. And I get it. Like if the kids are like, in bad situation or there's medical situations or anything like that, hey, listen, that I get. But where I see a lot of it is, again, the kids were irresponsible with the money and now they're losing their home. And now the parents have to come in and save them. Why not let them lose that home and let them start over again? Sometimes the kids have to learn, hey, sometimes they have to cut bait and be willing to start over. Why should you have to pay that price? Or maybe they go and they spend, $200,000 on their education. And now the kids, decide, hey, listen, you know what? I'm going to quit school in the middle of it. And now the parent is stuck with that 200 grand, so it has to make sense. And you have to assume the worst case scenario. I mean, if I didn't see it so often and I haven't seen, if it wasn't a scenario where I've seen clients actually devastate their retirement over it, then I wouldn't be so passionate about it. I literally had one client where the kids convinced the mom to pull a reverse mortgage out of the house so they can go start a business. And of course, they lost the business. And then, long story short, the mom ended up selling the home and, moving into a mobile home someplace. So, yeah, this I see, and people have, and if anybody listening to a show that's in this situation where they have trouble saying no to the kids, then you got to set up a cheat for yourself, whether it's a financial advisor or a family member or somebody that you can use as an excuse to say, hey, listen, here's the one that's in charge of the money. Here's the one that's in charge of the assets. You need to go talk to them, So if you're not strong enough to say no, then put somebody else as the middle person to be the strong one to say no for you.
And really, at the end of the day, it's about having that retirement plan yourself. So Safeguard Investment Advisor Group creates that big picture blueprint with you: income, investment, taxes, healthcare, legacy planning, Social Security, Medicare, all those questions and decisions we have to make. And you put a plan together, you will know really what shape you're in. Oh, I can give you 20,000. Can't give you 50, but I can give you 20, or maybe you could give them 50, right? Everybody's situation is unique. So Rick and the team are here to help kind of figure out where you are first off, and then that would give you an idea if you can actually help. 800-700-1980. And something that really might help you is Rick has put together a retirement toolkit with retirement guides. There's a webinar that Reed Aberdeen, a partner with Rick at Safeguard Investment Advisor Group, has put together. So there's a toolkit, the retirement guides, the webinar, all available to you. All you have to do is text the word toolkit to 951-667-4969. Kind of give you some ideas about retirement, some things you really need to know. Text the word toolkit to 951-667-4969. 4969. You get the retirement guides, get the webinar with Reed. 951-667-4969. Just a couple minutes left, but I wanted to get this question because I think it's an important one. Because your income is where it all kind of starts in that big picture blueprint. We've got to have income coming in to replace the paychecks are no longer coming in. How do you help people create that income strategy?
So here's the thing, Mark. I'm so glad you asked that question, because when it comes to an income strategy, and I said this once before, there's a big difference between accumulation planning versus income planning. And so many advisors out there, they may have you invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever, and they have you an accumulation plan. And then when it comes to income planning, They'll say, oh, all we need to do is just readjust the portfolio. Maybe we'll switch the percentages around, to set you up a little bit more conservative or whatever. And they'll use all these rules that they want to talk about, whether it be the rule of 100 and all this other stuff. But here's the thing. They're just taking an accumulation plan and adjusting it. It has nothing to do with income planning. And this is what I mean by that. When it comes to income planning, there's probably about 7 things just off the base that we have to take a look at. Number one is we have to take on, if we're going to do income planning and make sure this is going to last for the rest of our lives, and we're going to look at it from all angles. Number one, we got to look at risk. How much risk is the portfolio taking? And is it, I'm not saying we should run away from all risk, but we have to evaluate it in a way to make sure that it's enhancing our situation, not putting us in a position where we can get hurt. The other thing we want to take a look at is taxation. Any money that we save in taxes is a direct result of how much income you're going to have going forward. We also want to look at, internal fees, costs on how those investments are, how you're paying the fees on your investments. Because if we, save you 1% in fees, that may not sound like a lot, but on a $100,000 investment, that's $1,000 a year. If it's a $500,000 investment, that's $5,000 a year. Extrapolate that over a period of years. Now you're talking about saving tens of thousands of dollars by controlling the things that we can actually control. Roth conversion strategies. Income planning in a sense that, we need to make sure that the income can handle any economic environment. So we were just talking about Jerome Powell just a minute ago. We don't need to worry about these things as long as the income plan is set up that regardless of what happens to the economy, your check is still coming in. There's a way to structure that. And then, of course, your catastrophic planning strategies. The one thing that can eat away at all this, you have the perfect plan set up, but now because of medical costs or long-term care due to spend down, you lose it all. So what's in plan to cover that, to cover all the bases? And then, of course, wealth transfer strategy, making sure that there's a plan in place that, God forbid, one spouse predeceases the other and we lose a Social Security check or part of a pension check. Hey, how do we make that up? Or you might have a special needs child. How's a way to secure our retirement, but still maximizing what we can leave to maybe a special needs family member or whatever else that you're trying to do objective-wise. So there's a lot more into income planning than just readjusting the portfolio.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you'd like to learn more, talk with Rick and the team at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. The number is 800-700-1980. There's no cost. There's no obligation. I think it's one of the more important phone calls you could make. 800-700-1980, again, is the number. Complimentary, no cost to you. 800-700-1980. Another segment to go on today's Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. Stay with us. We're back right after this.
You're listening to the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera. For more information about Rick and the Safeguard Investment Advisory Group team, go to safeguardinvestment.com. While you're there, you can also download educational retirement guides and sign up for an upcoming seminar. That's safeguardinvestment.com. Now, back to the podcast.
Glad you're with us today for the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. I'm Mark Elliott. Any questions, concerns you have about where you are on that road to retirement, it's 800-700-1980. Complimentary call. There's no cost to chat with the team. 800-700-1980. You can always go to the website to learn more. Safeguardinvestment.com. Safeguardinvestment.com. I'm Mark Elliott. Glad you're with us. Hey, this segment, we're going to do something we haven't done. We haven't done it for a while, that's for sure. It's mailbag questions. And these come from the events that Rick and Reed and Eddie put on. So people have common questions type thing. Might be from the radio show. People sent in an email and said, hey, what about this? I got a question about that. Maybe just a phone call to the office at Safeguard and said, hey, I got a question. We kind of save these, and every once in a while we'll do a little mailbag segment. Rick, you ready to handle some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, here you go. This comes from Mike in Corona. Rick, we're seriously considering relocating now that we're a few years into retirement. Nothing's off the table, including moving abroad. What are some things we should think about when trying to decide where we should go?
Oh, very good question. Especially now that we got a lot of people moving out of state. One of the things that I would say is before you move anywhere, try it out first. So if you're thinking of moving to whatever it is, Nevada, Texas, abroad, if you have a home here, let's say, for example, in California, and you decide you want to move to another state, my big suggestion, if you can, is maybe rent a place first or do whatever you can to spend some quality time there, see the different seasons. So, because weather's going to be a big one, because I can't tell you how many times people will move someplace and then they realize, hey, wait a minute, it's too humid, it's too hot, it's too dry, it's too this, it's not good for my health. The other thing too, if you want to talk from the investment side, we got to talk about healthcare. Depending upon, your health situation, is it going to be close to good medical care, healthcare, doctors? The other thing you don't want to fall into a trap on is taxes. Sometimes I have people where you really have to crunch the numbers. They'll specifically move out of California to save money on state taxes. But if, let's just say, for example, you're paying, 10 grand a year in state taxes here in California, and you move to Texas and you're paying 1% in property tax, but over there it's 3.25% or 4%. The money you saved on one end, you're now losing on the other. So make sure that you just don't do things because they sound good. Make sure you sit down with an advisor that can actually compare, hey, if you're living here in California, here's what your taxes are going to be. Here's what the structures are going to look like. If you move to another state, you're going to save money on state taxes, but here's the difference on property taxes and maybe some other taxes where they get you. So it just has to make sense. And the hardest thing is if you sell your property here, you move out of state, and for whatever reason, you change your mind, you don't like it, it's always much harder to come back to California. So definitely sit down with somebody that specializes in that and can help you, at least look at some things, or at least give you some food for thought when it comes to that.
Yeah, that's great advice. And you think about it. I mean, for example, if you're going to, we're going to sell the house and we're going to buy an RV and just travel. That's what we're going to do. Well, maybe rent that RV first before you commit to that. Same thing here. So that's great advice, Rick. Mike, if you want to sit down with Rick, office right there in Corona, it's 800-700-1980, 800-700-1980. Next question, Rick, comes from Heather in San Bernardino. I'm really stressed about what I'm hearing about tax increases and all this money our government keeps spending. How can I learn more about what I can do to help protect my money?
Very good. Yeah, going forward, one of the biggest fears that most of our clients have and what we're getting hit with is that most people feel that taxes are going to go up with the amount of money that the government is spending. They're definitely not going to be reducing rates. I mean, 99.99% of the people don't think they're going to be reducing. So what I would say is one of the strategies you may consider, of course, don't automatically implement what I'm saying. You want to make sure that it's going to match your parameters, but you may want to consider doing maybe contributing to Roths or doing Roth conversions. And this is where you can actually, with a Roth, that money will grow tax-free for you going forward. You pay the taxes now, but going forward, all that money is tax-free at 73. You're not forced to pull it out like you are with your IRAs and 401ks. So you can let that accumulate tax-free beyond the rest of your life. So that way, it kind of puts you more in the driver's seat. Right now, whatever money you have in an IRA, 401ks, those retirement accounts, Uncle Sam owns a piece of, whether you like it or not. So there are some strategies that we can use where we can say, hey, listen, why don't we buy Uncle Sam out of your pocket? But let's do it. Let's pay the taxes on this money wholesale instead of retail. So there's strategies we can use in order to minimize the taxes, get that money over to a Roth. And now that it's tax-free for you, if they raise taxes later on or whatever they do, you're now in the driver's seat. So definitely, I would definitely consider Roth conversions, but sit down with an advisor that can actually run the numbers for you and make sure it makes sense for your particular situation.
Yeah, and that's great advice because there's no question. I mean, a Roth, we like the idea of not paying taxes, but we have to pay them. When you move that money into the Roth, you're paying the taxes then when we know what the tax rates are, and so as opposed to down the road when we're not sure, but we're pretty confident they're going to go higher. But the Roth makes sense for a lot of people, but it doesn't make sense for everyone. That's why Rick's saying, hey, Heather, give the team a call at Safeguard Investment Advisor Group. Can walk you through this and might be the perfect thing for you, but it might not be. He doesn't know until he actually sees your stuff and talks to you. 800-700-1980 is the number. Again, there's no cost for this, Heather. It's a complimentary call. 800-700-1980, and that goes for everybody that's got questions about, should I move money into the Roth world or not? 800-700-1980. This is a great question, I think. This one comes from Robert in Temecula. Rick, my dad worked at the same job for 30 years before he retired with a pension, and it just seems like he's never had to worry much about money. I've worked for 3 different companies, but I've always made sure to contribute to the company 401k with each position. I'm realizing that I should do something with those different accounts. There's a good amount in each of them, but I don't know how to consolidate that money or if that would even be the best thing for me to do. I'd sure love to enjoy retirement one day like my dad has.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you asked that question because we get this question a lot where people have 401ks at different institutions or different past employers, I should say. And the first knee-jerk reaction that they get whenever they talk to some of these advisors out there, oh yeah, just transfer it into a traditional IRA and you can consolidate it and you have more investment choices, which is true. However, there's much more that you need to look at before doing something like that because that could be a detriment. And what I mean by that, there's certain rules that if you decide, let's say one of the goals is, hey, listen, Rick, you know what? I want to retire by 55. Well, by you throwing that money into an IRA, now you can't pull that money out until you're 59 and a half without a penalty. So it might have been better for us to leave it in the 401k. Another thing that we got to take into consideration is required minimum distributions. I have a client that I just saw the other day, and she's like, Rick, I'm going to be working well into my 70s. She goes, I love what I do. She said, I teach. I get a lot out of it. She teaches second graders. So by her taking her 401k and throwing it into an IRA at 73, she's going to be forced to take distributions out while she's making the income that she's making teaching and being taxed on all this money and throwing it into a higher marginal tax bracket. But if she has a 401k, she's not forced to take those distributions out until she actually retires. So there's different rules, and there's even more rules than what I'm talking about right now. So what I would say is don't do a knee-jerk reaction. Sit down with somebody that specializes in this situation. Make sure they ask you, hey, what are your objectives? Find out what your goals are, and then they can let you know when is the best time to convert those 401ks under your particular situation. And, it's funny because I had a client just the other day really quick. She came in yesterday and she said, Rick, you know what? I don't know what I don't know. And your workshop was a big eye opener. And that's why I'm here for that second opinion, because I've been putting money away in 401ks and IRAs, and I know I got a pension, but I don't know how it's all going to work together. So that's why they come in to see us.
Absolutely. And to do just that, it's 800-700-1980. Again, this is complimentary. There's no cost to you. There's no pressure. It's all about you at Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. Can they help? They don't know until you reach out. They'd love to find out, though. 800-700-1980, one of the more important phone calls you make today. I'm pretty confident. 800-700-1980. Thanks for being with us today for the Big Picture Retirement Show with Rick Rivera of Safeguard Investment Advisory Group. Rick, enjoy the rest of the weekend. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Firm offers insurance services. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC, is a registered investment advisory firm. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC, is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Safeguard Investment Advisory Group, LLC. This radio show is a paid placement.